Hello, welcome to Mothership Gear. I am your host, Spencer Alfonso. I am the creative director at Ildefonso Inc. And today we are going to be talking with my friend Jakob Garcia. He's a guitarist, a producer. He's played for Phil Wickham, All Things Blue, Mini Trees. He's a composer as well with Moodboard and has also played with another friend, Jake Tittle. So he's today's guest, and we have the Gibson Elliot Easton Tikibird Firebird Gold Mist Poly. On this show, we like to invite musicians to hang out at the studio and bring over their favorite or most unique pieces of gear. So before we get into the gear talk, though, I wanted to hear what you thought of tour life, Jake. You've been on the road, I feel like, more and more, and you recently were in Florida.
All over the world, all the way to Florida.
I have a couple questions for you, just kind of like icebreaker questions. Do you play video games on the road?
It depends on how much downtime I have, but I usually try to bring the Switch when I can, especially like when Zelda came out. I brought it everywhere I went. But yeah, I try to, but sometimes it's just like not an opportunity.
So would you say that your tour schedule when you guys are playing and traveling is pretty tight? Like, is it that you're flying in the day of shows, or are you on buses? Like, how do you normally travel when you're touring?
It can be pretty tight. Luckily, the way that I've been touring is like fly in, play 4 or 5 shows straight, fly home. So it's not like a lot of bus travel days in between, or like not a lot of downtime. So it's pretty cool. Most of the guys are dads, so they like to be home with their families, which works out for me.
Nice.
Because I get to be home a lot more.
So then, what about food? Where have you found that eating on tour is fun? Is it difficult? Do you find restaurants that you like?
I mean, this sounds stupid, but the food is all usually catered.
Okay. And is catering good food?
It's amazing.
Okay. What do you guys usually have for catering?
Try to bring it like different stuff every day to like keep from being bored. Although this last run, I think I ate probably 50 chickens just because every meal had chicken. And I was like, something feels wrong about this.
That's a lot of chickens to be eating.
Just seeing a plate filled with chicken breasts is like,
that's a lot of chicken.
I'm not like a vegan or anything, and normally don't have like a moral issue, but I was like looking at that like, these all used to be creatures, and now they're just like in a tray. But it's delicious.
So you are pause.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt the flow, but this keeps picking up as your face, which I know this mic is not your face.
Oh yeah, that'd be annoying.
It's not? It's not. Is that
My whole life's a lie.
Let's see if that helps.
Jake, you're not an SM7?
I guess not. I need to go to therapy, figure that out.
So much better. Okay.
So you have eaten a lot of chickens.
Mm-hmm.
What about favorite cities to play in?
I mean, it depends on who I'm touring with, like style of venue. Like normally when I'm touring with some of like the indie rock bands that you were naming, those are typically the cooler, like grimy bar venues, which I tend to like a lot more. But I don't know what my favorite city to play in would be. I mean, I just played at Universal Orlando, and that was pretty sick because I got to ride roller coasters all day and then go on stage.
Yeah.
Which is not a good combo, but...
Why? Why is that not a good combo?
I think I'm just too old for roller coasters because we went like on 2 rides and I was dead.
Like tired?
I think everything, emotionally, physically exhausted. Like, and to be fair, like there's a roller coaster called the Velocicoaster.
Uh-huh.
And it's like one of the top most intense in the world, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert. But it like, goes up to 70 miles an hour at one point. And we went back to back. And I felt horrible afterwards. My brain was rattled. Like my spirit was crushed. No, just kidding. No, it was a lot. It was very intense.
Yeah, that sounds very intense. So maybe we'll say Orlando is your favorite.
I don't know. I don't know about that one.
It's the most memorable.
It's the most beautiful city. I mean, I love New York.
Okay, New York.
New York's always great. Anywhere I can like go explore and have a good time, which I don't think Orlando qualifies unless you're in a theme park. Sorry to Orlando people if you're watching.
So New York, probably favorite to explore. What about guitar tips for tour? Like, is there any tips and tricks you've picked up, whether you're flying with your guitars or driving or loading into a venue or prep before stage, stuff that you realized is stuff that you should be doing when you're playing on the road or playing a lot of shows back to back?
I recently got, it's called a Gator mini vault. Okay. And it holds 2 guitars, and it's like a plastic road case, but it's got wheels. And normally I'd be bringing one guitar on in a mono case or something, and trying to get that on an airplane is always like, you might get it, you might not. And so now I have this case that I can just check. Nice. And it's underweight and like, it's pretty sturdy so far. And I think that is a game changer. Like walking onto an airplane without trying to get my guitar in the overhead and everybody like looking at you with their big suitcases because they have no space left. Just like feeling judged. Yeah. I'm just like this the whole time. Yeah, that's been a huge game changer. And that was just like within the last couple weeks.
Okay, that's great. And which guitars do you usually travel with in that kind of scenario?
I have a Gibson custom shop ES339, which is like a 335 that was shrunk down. So it's kind of cute. And then I just recently started bringing my Fender custom shop Nocaster, which is just a telly, but there's like a whole history there with the name. But I just started bringing those. This guitar, I think it's longer than a P bass, so it doesn't fit in any normal guitar cases. So I don't get to travel with it, but when I'm home, I like to play it as much as I can.
Brad, okay. Oh yeah, then one thing I saw yesterday, just happenstance, was so you play with a lot of indie bands. One of those is Mini Trees. I saw that you made miniatures for, is it Lexi? You made that for her?
Yeah.
What was the story behind that?
That was her first record that she released. And she was having like a big record release show in LA, and I had recently bought a 3D printer, and I've always just kind of like had a fascination with making miniatures and stuff since I was a kid. Wanted to be an architect, build miniatures, but then realized like it's mostly math. It's like, I don't think that's for me. But that never went away. And so I had this idea to make a little mini like milk crate and then print a mini version of her record and put it in there. It's like a kind of like a celebration gift of her release.
That's rad. That's a great idea. Like I feel like you could definitely do more of that if you ever wanted to, because that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I'll make you one if you want.
Dude, yes.
I made one for my dad with a bunch of like Zeppelin and Beatles records in it, which was pretty cool for like Christmas or something.
Well, that's a perfect transition, because I was going to ask you, what kind of music are you drawn to as a guitar player? Like, what would you say are some important records that have inspired your playing and wanting to pick up a guitar and stuff that you go back to listen to every once in a while?
It's hard to say. I was raised on classic rock. My parents, it's like huge classic rock fans. My mom saw Hendrix and the Doors and seen Zeppelin a bunch. Like,
Where's your mom from originally?
she's from California.
So in like 68 and 69, she was at like LA venues.
Yeah.
Oh,
She
wow.
liked the whiskey, and she went and saw everybody.
No
which
way.
is crazy. She's total hippie, bell bottoms, no shoes, like crazy cool. And so she saw a lot of cool bands. And then when her and my dad got together, they went to all kinds of concerts. They were at the US Festival.
What's the US Festival?
It was the details might be wrong here, but Steve Wozniak, when he sold his shares of Apple, put most of that money into a big festival. And I think it kind of lost money.
Oh no.
So it was kind of a waste on his part, but every band you can think of
Wow.
was there for these like 2 or 3 days. My parents at the time were like really into hair metal. So they went to the hair metal day, like, I don't know, like Van Halen was there, and Judas Priest. Like,
Yeah. Okay, I think I remember hearing about this.
yeah, but like you look at the other days and it's like the Police, U2, the Cars, like all these bands that I would kill to see, but they chose the hair metal day, which I would also love to see, but maybe not over the rest of the bands.
Totally. So yeah, that Friday was Gang of Four, Ramones, The Beat, Oingo Boingo, the B-52s, Talking Heads, and the Police.
Yeah.
And then there was Saturday was Dave Edmunds, Eddie Money, Santana, the Cars, the Kinks, Pat Benatar, and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And then there was September 5th, which is Grateful Dead, Jerry Jeff Walker, Jimmy Buffett, Jackson Browne, and Fleetwood Mac. There's more days. There's a lot more days. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, okay, so the hair metal day. Yeah, heavy metal day. Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest, Triumph, Scorpions, and Van Halen.
Yeah. Huge Van Halen fans.
Wow. Yeah, there's other days with U2, In Excess, Stray Cats, The Clash, Emmylou Harris, Alabama. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Every band you'd want to see in the 80s.
So you grew up with those bands. Any other crucial guitar players?
I mean, Jimmy Page is probably number one for me.
What do you appreciate about Jimmy Page's style?
Honestly, I like kind of how janky those first records are, especially. It's like he's just rushing or dragging. Like, it's so not tight, but I love it.
Yeah.
Because like nowadays that would be fixed, recut, quantized, whatever.
Totally.
Which sounds like an old guy thing to say, but
No, I think when you listen to rock music, there's always a tendency for someone to say it's cheesy. And I think the cheesiness comes from the over-reliance on Pro Tools and all that, because when you don't have that like Pro Toolsy, like everything's melodined, everything's quantized, beat detected,
right,
then it has the chance to sound chaotic and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's what I think is why so many people love Jimmy Page, is because it's like, it sounds urgent and like a performance, and like it's part of the sound, how he like does his weird timing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you take that out, it's just like, so it would be so generic sounding. And so many people have tried to do Led Zeppelin, but quantized, and then it just becomes like so generic.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's like, you listen, my dad, again, big into music, has this crazy vinyl setup. We've been listening to some early Zeppelin records, and you just hear like full on mistakes. And they got kept, tape's expensive, time is expensive. And so they just kept this stuff on there, and you would never hear that now. And I love that. I love how janky it is. And I do love the hair metal, like pristine, perfect guitar playing. It's really cool. And there's a space for that, but I don't know, Jimmy Page, because it almost made it feel attainable, especially like being clunky at playing guitar when you're 13 and being like, well, this music's awesome and he's kind of janky, so I think I can do this.
Yeah, and it makes it more fun to watch live too, because it feels more like not that I've seen him live, but I've watched a lot of live concerts. It's like,
Right.
it feels spiritual. Like it feels like there's another force at play than just technical perfection, you know?
Right.
Okay, sick. So then, why do you love the Cars? Because this guitar is a Elliot Easton Tikibird Firebird. Why did you buy this guitar, and why do you love the Cars? And are those two things related, or is that a coincidence?
I mean, I do love the Cars. Grew up on that first record, which is funny because if you buy their...
Is this one the first one?
That's the first one.
Okay.
And if you buy their greatest hits record, like half that album is on there. Totally. So that album is just like hit after hit. And I've always loved the guitar playing on it. It's like kind of doesn't have a genre. Like the music could be put in a genre, but the guitar solos and stuff, it's like, oh, this one's like a country, like chicken picking guitar solo over this like 80s rock song. And I don't know, it's just so unique. And I think Elliot Easton's crazy underrated. But I just love that record. My parents would put it on in the car a lot. And so I kind of grew up on that. And then when I found this guitar, I actually liked the guitar before I found out that it was a signature model.
Where did you find it, and how did you first come across it?
I always buy guitars based on like how weird they are.
Which seems to be a theme. Like Brandon said something similar, and so did Hans, where it's like guitarists are drawn to the silhouette of a guitar, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't, because, you know, there's guitars that everybody has, and there's a reason why everybody has them. Because they sound good, they feel good. You can like pretty much get the sound you want. But I always want, you know, if something comes in like a limited edition color, crazy color, it's like, that's how you get me to spend money. But I found this on Reverb, not this exact one. Found it on Reverb, loved it, but it was like, I don't know if I want to spend the money right now. Passed up, and it sold, and then was for like probably a year and a half constantly looking on Reverb to see if there's another one up for sale. One came up for sale in like Europe or something for like $8,000. And so I was like, oh, I missed my chance. Like, never going to be able to get this guitar again. And then still was checking, and one popped up in the States, and it was probably more than it's actually worth, but I just had to jump on it and buy it. And I don't think I'll ever see somebody else playing one of these.
Are they really rare? Did they do like a limited run, or?
I don't know if it was specifically a limited run, but I know that they did a run of them and never made them again, but I don't think it was like sold as a limited run. So I don't know how many there are, but like it's like greenish gold finish. It's cool. And honestly, like I told you earlier, the main reason I bought it is because the little tiki guy. Normally this would be a big Firebird. And I'm just really into like tiki and tiki culture, which is pretty funny. But like this strap, a friend of mine bought it for me because he knew I loved tiki stuff. And then like a week later, I got this guitar, and it like matches perfectly. So
where did you get into tiki? What was the first connection to tikis?
I honestly don't know. I was talking to my wife. When I was a kid in school, like doodling, I would always draw like this exact kind of thing in my notebook, and like variations on the face. So I was like really drawn to it for some reason. But then just like we're talking about limited edition things, and tiki culture is like they do these mugs, and they're like limited run, and they're really cool, like interesting shapes and stuff. And so I got really into collecting those a couple years ago, and now I just have like a countertop full of crazy tiki mugs that'll never get used because they're like not really made for drinking out of. But I just got really into like collecting all that stuff. So at that point in time, it was like, oh, there's a tiki guitar. I have to have it.
I love that. So do you have favorite Cars songs or a favorite Elliot Easton riff?
I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite song.
On that first album, they have, so Good Times Roll, My Best Friend's Girl, Just What I Needed, I'm in Touch with Your World, Don't You Stop, You're All I've Got Tonight, Bye Bye Love, Moving in Stereo, and All Mixed Up.
I mean, all bangers. All Mixed Up was what usually my favorite song on that record, because I tend to be drawn towards like more minory sounding things. I don't know why. Like, if your song's in E minor, I'll probably like it. But I like that song. It's funny because that one doesn't have like a ton of crazy guitar stuff. But, Just What I Needed is like the classic. And that guitar solo is classic. So I love a lot of the little licks and bends and stuff he does in that solo. But I think any solo that he does is like very well thought out and super unique and kind of out of left field for what the song is. Especially like later you have these like 80s synth pad ballads, and then he just like rips this crazy solo with like almost no, it almost seems like no like intention to make it fit the song, but somehow it makes it cooler. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love it.
So walk us through kind of your bass sounds with the guitar. Like if you're playing a show or in the studio, what are like the sounds that you lean on for this guitar? Like what do you pull it out for? And then maybe like as you do that, just talk through some of the pedals and your rig that you use with it.
Well, one thing about this guitar is you can see that it's got all these little toggle switches, and they're really cool. And another thing that drew me to this guitar is it's got Gibson 57 classic pickups, which are their attempt to make like a consumer level version of their PAF pickups from the 50s, late 50s, which is, Jimmy Page. That's like a huge part of his sound. But Jimmy Page was gifted a guitar from Joe Walsh, and he'd like modified it so that it had, you could put the pickups out of phase. So it had the PAFs, and you could put them out of phase. And this guitar actually has that ability.
What kind of guitar was the guitar that they did that to?
It was a Les Paul.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I can't afford a Les Paul with real PAFs, or even a set of PAFs are insanely expensive. So like these aren't my favorite recreation of those pickups, but I do really love them. I have them in my other Gibson. But the fact that you can flip it out of phase, it's got coil tapping for each pickup, and then it's got like a lead setting where it just sends the bridge pickup straight to the jack and bypasses everything else for like, if you're like doing solos or whatever.
Yeah, maybe show us like each of those pickup selections so we could kind of like hear the different components.
Yeah, so like, this is just bridge pickup, classic Gibson. The coil tapping on here.
What does coil tapping mean?
I don't know the science, but
it sounds like a little more stratty.
Splitting because there's two pickups and a humbucker to cancel the hum, and I don't know. It's
like a twangier sound, kind of, or like a scooped sound.
It does make it more single coil style.
Okay.
I don't know, like it's splitting the two pickups instead of, I don't know if it's like a parallel versus series kind of thing.
Yeah.
Probably should have looked it up.
If you guys know what we're talking about, and it's versatile coil splitting and phase reverse wiring. If you guys know what that means, let us know.
So the phase reverse is cool. kind of gives. There's like a standard humbucker, really warm, kind of can get dark pretty easy. But when you put it out of phase, it kind of has that like squawky,
Totally.
kind of Brian May, definitely Jimmy Page thing, which is amazing to have.
And then, so how long have you had this exactly?
It's only been a couple years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what are the pedals that you're using right now to get the sound that you have?
Right now, I'm just using an RC booster, and I dime the output to kind of I'm using an amp sim right now, and it's always a struggle getting those to sound like the real thing. And I found that, like, for me, just like diming the output on a boost pedal kind of gets it to react a little more like a real amp. So that's what I have right now. And then it's just like these pickups just kind of have inherent grit to them,
Totally.
which I love.
So would you recommend that guitarists get this model if they find it? Like, is it a recommend guitar, or is it how would you classify it if someone was like, Jake, that thing's sick, should I get that?
I mean, I'd recommend it just because it's super cool and it has a lot of versatility. But like I said, it's so large that it doesn't fit in any normal gig bag. The case is like a giant coffin. It doesn't fit on a lot of guitar stands because of the weird body shape. And it's really hard to find. But if you do find it, I think it's a great guitar, great sound, and super useful, especially in the studio. Because sometimes these like toggle switches, especially on like a dark stage, can get a little confusing. But in the studio, it's great, which we worked on some stuff.
Yeah, with it. Yeah, totally. Well, thank you for bringing your Tikibird Firebird Gibson Elliot Easton. That's all the time we have for today. Say hi to us. Follow us on Instagram. Leave a comment below. On Twitter, we're Ildefonso Inc. And you can check out our website, ildefonso.co. We will see you guys next time. Bye.